And so those are Hugs, your two charities of choice, and now we're into 11 years of the fish fry. And as we get ready, what do you say we take a walk down memory lane here? What have the first 10 Bob Huggins fish fries looked like? So through the years, for those of you that may have been at the very, very first inaugural fish fry, we go back to year number 1, and it was Randy Moss as the very special guest. Year number 2, the one and only Jerry West. Third year, the gentleman who wrote the unofficial anthem of the state of West Virginia, Country Roads, Mr. Bill Danoff. Legendary outdoorsman, Curtis Fleming. Jamie Lester. I know what this is going to get. John Calipari. Go ahead. There you go. Thank you. Well.
I don't blame you a bit.
All right. I didn't think so. The Dream Team in 19. Rod Thorne in 2020. Fran Fraschilla in 21. Dave Portnoy last year from Barstool Sports. Yes, indeed. And that leads us to this year. So Hugs every year, the only pressure he really feels is, how do I put another one on top of another one to make this happen? And he did it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a West Virginia welcome. Headlining TNT's award-winning Inside NBA coverage, our 2023 headline guest, one of the game's and one of the biggest off-court stars, one of 6 players in NBA history to have compiled 20,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 4,000 assists. He was named to the NBA's 50th and 75th all-time anniversary teams. 16 years in the National Basketball Association, 11-time NBA star, 11-time member of the All-NBA team, 1993 NBA MVP, as he and his Phoenix Suns challenged Michael Jordan in a memorable 6-game series in 1993. Now let's give it up, Mountaineer style, for Mr. Sir Charles Barkley. Give it up.
Hello, hello. Wow, it's a lot of people here. Thank you all for being here, too.
Thank you. It is truly our honor to have you here.
Not bad for a little country get-together, is it?
You know, I want to say this, a couple things before we get started. Number one, you can have all the charity events you want to. Unless people show up, it's irrelevant. So I want you, please give yourself a round of applause for being here.
Absolutely.
And people, I was talking to the people in my life. I said, I got to go to West Virginia. They're like, why are you going to West Virginia? I says, Bob Huggins. And they said, the crazy guy? And I said, see, that's why there's a difference between perception and reality. I said, he's one of the coolest people I've ever been around in my life. I said, he is a big teddy bear. So just sharing that, the reason I'm in West Virginia is because of this dude right here.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good way. See, he doesn't like that to be known that he is just a big teddy bear. You know, he likes to play that big tough guy. He likes to play that big crazy guy, but deep inside, we could make you cry in a heartbeat.
Let's don't make him cry.
No, not tonight. Maybe eventually a little bit later on. All right, so let's jump in here a little bit. Charles, just a moment ago, we had folks stand that had dealt with cancer in their lives. It touches everyone's family. How has it impacted you and your family?
Well, I think first and foremost, obviously you guys know Ernie Johnson, and that was traumatic for us at TNT because we call him the Godfather. And we noticed something about his neck. And we're like, yo, man. He says, I didn't want anybody to know. He was covering up with makeup for like months and months, but it just got so big. We're like, are you all right? He said, no, I got cancer. And man, that was my first thing. We were all heartbroken because you never know how this thing is going to end. But now actually one of my really good friends' wife is battling breast cancer. I'm not gonna mention her name because we're keeping that private. But man, it touches a lot of people. And obviously Grant Hill's mom just passed away from brain cancer. But it touches you, and it's scary because you don't know who's gonna make it and who's not gonna make it. And I'm so excited to be here tonight because, he's trying to honor his family. He's doing a good job. I mean, he's somewhat successful as a coach. But having events like this is really what he's all about. I mean, obviously, he's a terrific coach, terrific person, but doing something like this, and shout out to the Mountaineer Nation for coming out supporting this thing.
Yes, indeed. And only because it only holds 14,000. There'll be 14,000 of them waiting on your Auburn Tigers tomorrow afternoon, too.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the game. We're coming off a loss. I'm looking forward to actually seeing a game here because, you've seen it on television. And when you go to these hometown teams that love their team, it's always a difficult environment.
Sure.
So I always tell people the two most important stats are rebounding and turnovers. We got to make sure we don't get out-rebounded, killed on the offensive board. Got to rebound the defensive board, obviously. But the biggest stat that I always tell people, there's a stat that I saw one time, like 89% of the time, if you win the rebounding and have the least amount of turnovers, you're going to win the game, especially on the road. You can't turn the ball over on the road, and you can't get killed on the boards.
So, Hugs, you were pretty lucky having 19 turnovers the other night and winning on the road.
I was going to say, Charles, I was having a good night till you brought up those stats.
Turnover's been a little problem of late.
Late. We're leading the country in turnovers. We can't, it's rough when you can't find a guy that has the same color jersey you have on. I mean, it's difficult.
Put a couple in the stands there the other night.
Oh, a couple.
Yeah.
We made a behind-the-back bounce pass, Charles. It was intended for a guy in the post that went out of bounds about the top of the key. He just missed him by a little bit. But let me just say this. I lost my mother to cancer. And one of the greatest people I think that anybody who's ever been associated with would say, just a great, great lady who did so much for so many. And, you sit there and you like, man, I got to do something, but you don't really know what to do, but you want to do something not just in honor of my mother, and I've got 4 sisters and 2 brothers here, and of course my family and their families. So, it's been certainly a family cause to do something, to try to do whatever we can do to eradicate this terrible, terrible disease. And we want to build a cancer hospital here. No, I said that wrong. We're going to build a cancer center here. And when you stop and think about it, Charles, and you think about this, last year, because of y'all, we raised $2.6 million. And from the looks of what's going on here, we're about to raise at least $2.6 million, thanks to you and these wonderful people out here. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
No, it's I'm honored to be here. You know, and people always ask me, how do I make a decision about what I'm going to do? I said, well, it's very simple. I says, I'm only going to do stuff for people I like. I mean that sincerely, because for some reason people think I don't have anything to do but their bullshit. They don't realize that I actually have a life. You know, I actually want to do stuff for myself. So when Huggy, and then he calls me, and I never answer my phone because it rings all the time. He says, yo, man, why do you never answer your phone? I said, because it rings all the time. He said, well, how do I reach you? I said, send me a text, and I'll call you right back. He sends me a text. I call him right back. He says, oh, it's that simple. I said, yeah, it's that simple. I said, I can't keep my phone on all the time because it rings all the time. And but like I say, man, I would do anything for this guy. And I just want to say again, I want to thank every single person who's in this building, because y'all could have been doing something else tonight. Time is the most valuable asset in the world, but you guys took time out of your life, so thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, let's talk a little basketball. What do you say?
Yes.
Okay. So I see some younger people in the audience, so they may not know your statistics. You brought up rebounding, how essential it is to win on the road.
Yes.
And I truly, personally believe the fact at your size, the way that you dominated in the NBA rebounding-wise, and Hugs, you can jump in on that, just makes you say, how?
Well, it was either get rebounds or go back to Alabama. Like, every time I got tired, I says, man, Alabama. You got to go back to Alabama. And I'm like, you need to pick it up. You know, I had a gift of rebounding. Rebounding and defense. I wasn't a good defender, but rebound and defense, they're all attitude. I love to rebound. I love the fact that I was so blessed. I was in college for 3 years, and I led to SEC in rebound in all 3 years. That's one of my most things I'm proud of. But it gave me the ability to make a living. I didn't know I was going to be able to score until later, but rebounding is something I take great pride in.
Understood. Now, that's one thing to do it in college, and then to do it at the highest level. How was that transition for you? How did you continue to be able to do that? Now, you're talking about 7-footers back in that day, legitimate 7-foot guys.
Yeah, it's just about desire. Like, anybody in here who's going to be successful, you got to have a tremendous work ethic. You're not, first of all, working hard does not guarantee you success, but it gives you a really good chance of being successful. Now, if you don't do anything, you're never going to be successful. But you have to work hard to be successful at anything, whether you're a trash man, doctor, lawyer, engineer. Whatever job you choose in life, you're going to have a great work ethic to be successful. And I used to say to myself, man, you got probably one of the easiest jobs in the world, dribbling the stupid basketball. I mean, like, it ain't like I'm working in the steel mill. You know, I'm like, all you got to do is work hard on a stupid basketball court, and number one, you're going to make more money than you ever thought in your entire life. And then when I started thinking about that, I'm like, man, I want this job. I don't want no real job. That's what I used to think all the time, because I admire people. Not that I would ever want to work 9 to 5. I admire people who work 9 to 5. Now, I would never want to do that.
You right?
Yeah, I like working 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
I said, you had that choice, work 9 to 5 or work 2 hours a day. Yeah, let me work this 2-hour day thing hard.
Yeah. And it worked.
It worked.
And it worked.
Tony, Charles, and I were talking earlier today, and I got the opportunity after finishing playing here at WVU to go to a tryout with the 76ers, of which you were there at that time. So I went in with just a bunch of guys that I think maybe a couple of them got drafted, but it was just a bunch of guys. And so you go in there and you go in and you look on the wall to see if you got cut or not that day. And fortunately, I didn't get cut, so I got to come back the next day. And I looked again, and I didn't get cut. And then pretty soon it was just me and two other guys, the number 1 pick in the draft, the number 2 pick in their draft, and me. And I'm thinking, it's got to fall here pretty soon, So we go in the locker room, and they said, you guys go in the locker room, we're going to tell you who made it, who didn't make it. So 3 of us are sitting in there. The trainer comes in, good friend of yours.
Yep.
Very good friend of Charles, the trainer, and he comes in, and he was known as a funny guy. He was always making jokes and making fun of people and everything. So he walks in, and he says, Ewans want to know who made it, who didn't make it. And these 2 guys jump up. They're like, hey, man, we ain't having that today, man. Just tell us who made it. And he looked and he said, none of you MFers. And he ran out the door. And so these guys are like looking at each other like, he clowning again. He just clowning again. I'm looking around seeing what kind of gear's laying on the floor. and they get up and they start running up and down the hallway trying to find him. He's long gone by now. He's in the car.
He's at the racetrack.
Yeah, he's gone. So they're running up and down the hallway. All this gear's laying on the floor. So I'm grabbing all the gear I can get my hands on, stuffing it in a bag. I didn't even take a shower. I just put a shirt on over top. After I got all the gear, I was out the door in the car, and I was already out of Philadelphia. I know by the time those 2 guys got back in there and find out not only did they get their ass cut, they lost all their gear. So that was my experience with the 76ers.
That was your NBA experience, right there.
That was my experience with the 76ers.
Hey, Charles, we were talking real quick in the back there a little bit, the way that college sports is changing. And 2 of the biggest things that have come up here in the last several years, and for NIL, it's been less than 3 years now. The game has changed incredibly. Give me your take on the college game today. You can either go portal, you can go NIL. What are you thinking?
Well, I hate both. I hate NIL and I hate the portal for a couple reasons. Number one, I think every school can't afford to pay players. It's going to become an arms race. And I think in 3 to 5 years, most of these colleges are going to be in serious trouble. Because, listen, if I'm a kid, I'm probably going to go to the school going to pay me the most money. And you got 2 different variables, because you got basketball where you only have to stay for 1 year. So you're going to be like, I'm going to take the most money. I only got to be there a year. Or you factor in football. You're like, well, I got to stay at least 3 years. What can I get the best deal to make sure I'm going to get paid for the next 3 years? That's like, I hate to pick on a kid because I'm very selective when I'm doing March Madness. I don't criticize college players like I do pro players. But I want to say this. I saw the situation with the kid at Florida where they had told him they were going to give him $13 million. I'm like, first of all, why the hell is he getting $13 million and he's never even set foot on a college football field? That's just crazy. Like, why would, like, I don't even know why you would offer a college kid that much money. But I think we're going to have a really serious issue in the next 3 to 5 years because it's going to be the haves and really the have-nots. As far as the transfer portal, I don't like telling kids, I don't like kids quitting. Like, you got to stay and fight. Now, if you stay for a minute, but I just don't like that aspect of the transfer portal. Like, I'll give an example. So my daughter, the best thing in my life, I have one kid, my daughter. So she goes to University of Arizona, and she hates it. So she calls me, she says, Dad, I hate it here. I says, okay, there's got to be a point you're trying to make. What is it? She says, I want to leave. I says, nope, 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 nope. You're not going to leave. Not going to happen. She says, why? I says, I don't want to teach you that quitting's all right. I said, this is what we will do. You got to stay for the year. And if you don't like it after a year, we can discuss it. And it was in December, I think, at the time. She had just started in September, August, September, somewhere in there. And I says, I never want you to quit because you don't like something. And she ended up transferring to Villanova, and she loved Villanova. She finished up at Columbia Grad School. She's doing great. She's a great person. I just became a grandpa, which is the greatest thing ever happened to me.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is Ernie and Clark Kellogg had told me being a grandpa was going to be the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm excited, blah, blah, blah. But being a grandpa is the coolest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Awesome.
And little Henry is amazing. And so I'm just excited for her and her husband. So they're doing good. I'm starting a college fund already because by the time, one thing I hate about this country is how much it costs to go to college. We got the greatest country in the world, but to have these kids paying that type of money to go to college is total BS. It's not right, it's not fair, and I told my daughter, I said, we need to start him a college fund because by the time he go to college, it's gonna be like $1 million a year. But the United States is the greatest country in the world, but to have these kids systematically, like, you can't go to that school because your parents don't have money. You can't go to that school. I just think it's a travesty and a disgrace.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good, solid points. Very solid points. On to the basketball court. Hugs, over 900 victories for you. The game has changed dramatically the way that it's played. Three-point shot has changed the game, obviously, college and the NBA. Charles, what's your take on today's NBA style of play where the three is valued at such a high level?
I don't like it. And first of all, I'm not the old dude. Get off my lawn. The reason I don't like it is there's no more strategies. Like, let's come to the gym. If we make threes, we win. If we don't make threes, we lose. Well, I'm like, well, it ain't that many great shooters walking the earth. I says, all y'all can't shoot. So I'm like, why are you shooting threes? I said, first of all, you're 7 feet tall. I said, like, so that's my problem. I said, like, I want guys who are great shooters shooting threes. But players don't know. Players always think they're better than they are. I got a coaching friend of mine who's a terrific coach. He does this survey at the beginning of the season, which I think all coaches should do this. It's pretty good. He says, and it's a blind thing. He says, I want you to write down who think they're a starter, how many points they're going to average, and no put a name on it. And every year he says, well, I got 9 starters, and we're going to average 175 points a game. Because players, we all have this perception like, well, I'm better than they think I am. But it's really a great test for players because, like, wait, we can't have 9 starters. I know 9 of you guys think y'all are starters, but it's always laugh how many points they think they're going to average.
Sure.
So I just think that basketball, man, it's their strategy. Like, if you're not a good shooter, don't be shooting threes. That's why I don't like it.
Hugs, your take.
Well, Charles worried about three-point shooting. I'm worried about our guys keeping it between the black lines and throwing it to the guys that have the same color shirt they have on. We struggle with that now. I keep thinking we send them in, get their eyes checked, make sure they're not colorblind, and then take them over. Do you see this? Try to stay on this side of it. Try to keep the ball on this side of it. We got people who sit down there in the end zones are trying to change their seats. I mean, they've been hit so many times with balls. It's kind of ridiculous. We won the other night. We had 10 turnovers. And
You had 19 turnovers.
we had 19 turnovers.
You had 10 threes, 19 turnovers.
All right, so I missed something. Think about that, 19
You
turnovers.
should not win that game.
No.
I mean,
No.
you should not win a game where you give a team 20 more possessions.
Yeah, it was all coaching. 100% coaching. So. No, and we keep talking about it and trying to fix it, and then you think you got it fixed, and then the game starts, and we've thrown it over every line there is on the floor. We've thrown some backwards. I mean, it's just, and then you stand there and you look and you think, they can't be that stupid. And then you talk to them and they can talk, And I keep thinking we're getting better. And they keep telling me, no, we're not. So. Anyways, if we throw it away 19 times, your guys will go back happy. If they throw it away 19 times, I don't think I'll let them out of the locker room, or maybe let them in ever again. It's one of the two. So it ought to be a great game.
Yeah.
It really ought to be a great game.
How much have you seen? You watch Auburn a good bit?
I do.
Okay, so give me your take on this. Give us a scouting report here for tomorrow. Got a big transfer in there in the middle, huh, in Broom?
Yeah, but our guards are the key. They can shoot us in it, or they can shoot us out of it. And, the one thing that people need to understand, you need good guard play. Guards have the ball most of the time. No matter how great your other players are, your guards they start your offense. They start your fast break. So your guards have to play well if your team is going to be successful. Like, they're getting the ball to your big guy. But we have trouble shooting us out of it. That goes back to hey, some nights ain't your night. And, you asked me earlier about the NBA game. These guys come down on a fast break and they flare out to shoot a three. I'm like, we had a layup. I'm like, why did you flare out? We had a layup. And that's probably the one that drives me crazy the most. Like, yo, man, a layup is an easy shot.
Well, we have kind of the opposite problem. Our guys do run, but we throw it over their head, behind them. We've hit guys in the foot. So we don't have the same kind of problems, Charles, that other people have. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about if we could possibly dribble it across half court, because we do rebound it pretty good. We dribble it across half court. Maybe I should just tell them, shoot it before you throw it away. No, but then you get that little dissension going among the team. They're like, he shot it like 3 times and we barely crossed half court. I said, well, I know, but he'd thrown it out of bounds if he hadn't. I mean, take your pick. What are we doing?
Hey, Charles, let me ask you this, because you guys, we always get into these debates. Greatest player of all time, greatest this, greatest that. Pat Riley came out this week. Maybe seen the story, said Kareem was the greatest player of all time as LeBron gets ready to break Kareem's scoring record. If you had to pick either played with, played against, seen in your career, who's your all-time point guard? You're going to be the general manager of a team. Who do you start with at point guard?
Probably Magic Johnson.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not a bad start.
My biggest argument is obviously I'm going to say Michael's the greatest, Kareem, Kobe, LeBron. I think the best way to do it, honestly, is just to do generational.
Yep.
Because there's not a person, well, maybe Hugs, and maybe some other old geezers in here, actually saw Wilt Chamberlain play, or Bill Russell, or Oscar Robertson,
Jerry West.
Jerry West, who's one of the 10 greatest on my list. So, no disrespect, like, I never saw Bill Russell or Wilt play.
Right.
So I don't know if it's fair, even though I got them on my top 5, I'm just going by like, if you were that great, I got to give you some love. But the best player I ever played against, I said personally, was Kevin McHale. But during my generation, it was Michael Jordan and Bird and Magic. Kareem was at the end. But, you know, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone. But then I saw Kobe in his prime, and I've seen LeBron in his prime. So I think instead of, and first of all, I think when you have no talent on television, you make up shit. You're like, I know people are gonna call in and argue with me if I say Kobe, LeBron, or Michael. I'm like, that takes zero talent. Like, all 3 of them are 3 of the greatest players ever.
Right.
But we live in this cycle where these guys have no talent. They're like, well, I need somebody to call into my radio show and argue with me for 4 hours, or I'm on TV in the morning. I want to get clickbait. Listen, Michael, Kobe, and LeBron, they are 3 of the 10 greatest players ever, and that's it.
Yeah. You
Tony,
said something.
Tony, I was a little kid. My dad took me to the Canton Fieldhouse, and the 76ers were playing. And the game's over. Wilt Chamberlain walks into the tunnel where we were sitting. It's the largest human being I've still ever seen to this day.
Have you ever seen Shaq?
Yes, but Wilt was cut up.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Shaq is fat.
Shaq.
Yeah, Shaq is fat. Go ahead and say it.
No.
Yeah, go ahead and say it. Yeah, Wilt was cut. Shaq is fat. I agree with you, Bob. Hey, I agree with you.
I didn't say fat, but he's not cut.
Different body type.
Well,
He was big bone.
See, you're
big
only-
bone.
big
Big
bone,
bone. Big bone.
You're only saying that because he whipped your ass in that wrestling match. That's the only reason you're saying that.
I love working with the big fella. We have a lot of fun together. It's fun to go to work. I mean, we get to watch basketball, but man, we try to make it fun because, you know, there's only a couple real jobs in the world. I always tell people, like teachers, firemen, policemen, doctors, anybody who's in the armed service, like if you don't have one of those jobs, you should just shut the hell up and just go to work.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I think you guys have a lot in common. I think I've heard that a few times from you as well.
No, because I always tell people, they're like, yo, man, what's the deal with you? Why don't you? I said, yo, man, I played basketball. We ain't, like.
You weren't mining coal.
Like, dude, if you guys take yourself a little bit too serious, I says, yo, man, you're a running back. That's what you are. You're a great running back. But, like, it ain't that important. I said, man, I dribbled a basketball for a living. I don't take all that stuff over, like, I'm not serious.
Yeah. And on it goes. Sir, did you have something there?
No, I'm sitting there listening. I grew up in a town of 500 people, 2 stoplights, 9 bars. And you wake up every morning and you turn the radio on and it says Midvale Mine number 9 will work. And then you hear they used to they put chains on the tires to be able to get to work. So you hear those chains going, you know, in the morning, those pickup trucks headed to the mine. And then after the pickup trucks, when they had the studded tires, so you wake up in the morning, you hear this zzz, zzz, cars trying to get down the road in the snow, because we're right in the middle of the snow belt, and those guys, they didn't miss work. They just didn't miss work, and it was you stop and you think about it as I got older, you know, and of course I wanted to be you. I wanted to be a professional basketball player. You know, I unfortunately got cut. Never made it that far. But I mean, just the memory of those guys and those guys coming home, and we had pictures all over the place here at one time with the helmet and the black soot on their face, and people coming out of the mines. That's work.
That's work. That's real.
That's real work.
That is work. Ladies and gentlemen, two guys that have used the game of basketball and taken it to a whole new level. Special thank you to Charles Barkley for being with us here tonight. Give him a Mountaineer welcome and thanks. That's right. Cheer for him tonight because you'll be booing his Tigers tomorrow afternoon. That's all right. Hey, at this time, we'd like to thank our 2023 Diamond sponsors. These are the people that put their dollars in to make this what it is and to raise those dollars that Hugs has been saying. Special thank you to the Hayhurst family. Give it up, Kenneth Mason, the good folks at WVU Medicine, the official medical provider of the Mountaineers. Applied Construction Solutions, the super folks at Little General Stores. The Osali Feck Herald Group, Morgan Stanley, Mr. Ike and Betty Sue Morris, Joe and Lisa Subrick, Mona Supply, and the Guard Unit. Special thank you to all of you folks. Also, our platinum sponsors, Exxon, Diageo, Diversified Energy, Pete and Linda Zulia of Oxford Physical Therapy Centers, Lightning Energy Services, Larry Huggins and the office crew, MVB Bank, Mid-State Ford. Thank you guys so very, very much, our platinum sponsors. And now our special sponsors. This couldn't happen without these folks and their contributions. Hugs is wearing the hat. The Boston Beanery, who provided tonight's fantastic meal. Thank you, folks. Kegler's Sports Bar, home of the Bob Huggins Show. Three Leaf Solutions, the Mustard Couch, Elevated Elegance, and Chuck's Furniture. Without them, we can't do this. And to the hundreds of volunteers who make this possible. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Charles Barkley. Thank you, Charles. So, folks, a wonderful program coming up here, our 50-50 raffle drawing, our 8 o'clock stop to the silent auction, and a presentation for our great friend, Mr. Greg Darby and the friends at Little General. Up next, the Davison brothers will join us, a little mid-show performance, and as they make their way to the stage, I remind you again, silent auction closes at 8 p.m., and the instructions for using the app are available at your tables. Davison brothers are on deck once again. Let's hear it for Charles Barkley, Bob Huggins. We'll be back. Enjoy.